And remember last week I was on a mission. I wanted to test myself with a video challenge of going live every day. Did not do it over the weekend. I think I had sort of waffled on that a couple of times and said that I might do it Saturday and Sunday and I might not. And I ended up not doing it. So I decided to just take the weekend off. But I am back in it. It's Monday. And today I have the pleasure and the honor of doing a co-host or having a co-host on today's session. And it's Jessica Saunders out of New Zealand. And she is a digital marketing specialist. And I wanted to have her on so that we could talk about content marketing and brand identity. We're calling today's live stream Building a Memorable Online Presence. And we are going to talk about specifically having a brand identity and then generating content for your content strategy with regards to digital marketing for Jessica. And then I'm going to talk about how that relates to video marketing. So first and foremost, I want to introduce Jessica so that she can say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Great to be having this chat today. I've been really excited about it and talking about one of my favorite topics, which is branding and content creation. I've been working in the design and now marketing industry for almost 10 years. So hopefully what I can share with you today can be helpful.
Yay. And for anyone that is coming in live, it would be great if you could just let us know that you're on. If you have any questions, feel free to post them. I am going to open up my chat window so that I can see. I think when I'm using Restream, I only see chats that come on YouTube, I think. I'm not sure if, because we're going live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And I think not all of them come into the chat. So I will try to see if I can open up an additional windows, but I'm going to be the first to tell you, I'm not the greatest at multitasking. So I'm not going to, promise that I'll be able to see those. But if you can leave a message or a comment after this, I will definitely make sure to go through them and respond to any questions that we may have. And I can direct any questions that were directed to Jessica to her as well. And if you are seeing this on the replay, again, please definitely make your comments and we will respond to you. And I appreciate you being here and following both of us. And so we will actually drop our information. Jessica, if you could put in the chat, if you can put down your LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram or whatever your handles are, if you can put that for everyone in the chat, you should be able to see somewhere on your screen, either a chat, it says chat, or it might be the icon for chat, and then you can just type in your information.
I can see the private chat.
Yeah, the other one should be to the right of your screen, not to the bottom. So if not, we'll figure it out and I'll get the information up there. If you want, you can put it in the private chat and then I can put it in the main chat for you. Since I did not think to correct that or make sure that we did that. So anyway, so let's get started. So essentially, in order to build a memorable online presence using video, you will need a strong brand identity and content strategy. So I think with digital marketing as a whole, it's similar to what I would do for video marketing, because video marketing, I believe, is a part of digital marketing. But I want to hear from you, Jess. What are the elements that you would need in order to have a strong brand identity and then correlate that to a good content strategy?
Yeah, well, I think basically a huge part of brand identity is storytelling. So you're wanting to start a story. And I think when you're creating brand identity, I've worked with bigger businesses, medium-sized businesses, individuals. They all sort of follow a similar pattern, but they do vary a little bit. But for this conversation, I'll mostly focus on smaller businesses, possibly more individuals wanting to do their own business and video content and that sort of thing. Maybe they're starting up as well. So I think, firstly, you really want to nail your brand identity before you create content. I think some people are really clever and they can start off with just being consistent and posting amazing content, and that's also really great. But I think it's super important, as you say, to have a really intention focused plan and a goal when you're creating that. And whenever I work with clients, I always focus on that branding identity first. So I would say, creating branding identity, you should always first look at who you are, what you're providing the audience. It could be a product, a service, even just support in some way. And then you think about who your audience is, because those two things have to gel together really well, because you're wanting the audience to basically be attracted to your brand and be able to magnetize them from all angles, and they'll see your brand and they'll go, okay, this is made for me. So I do see a lot of brands and individuals creating things that they like potentially, but then maybe not what the target audience wants. And then vice versa as well. I think now more than ever, it's really important to stay true to yourself and your brand and sort of speak your truths and do what you love, because it shows. It shows if you don't love your own branding.
Mm.
So I guess in terms of actually, like, I'm not sure if your question related to the sort of ideas behind branding or actually the physical outputs, but I definitely say breaking down those three things, just nailing like the who you are, what you provide, and who you want to sell to or provide to is really important.
Yeah, I think that correlates with video as well.
Mm,
Those three things are key. And I do
mm,
think that a lot of people, particularly, I think I didn't really assume that it happened if you're doing it for your business, but definitely
mm,
when people are thinking about their video marketing plan, I think that more often than not, they just want to get the video out there and
mm.
they want to skip a lot of steps because
Yeah,
of variety of reasons.
sure.
And I learned this the hard way because it's, nothing that I now teach or talk to my audience about isn't stuff that I've dealt with and made mistakes through.
Mm,
But it is very, very important that you understand who your target audience is and what specifically they need. And then also, how can you help them? What is it that you do that makes sense for you to match with that audience member
mm,
in terms of the needs that they have and that you're offering a service that is going to be beneficial to them. And so with my business, I tended to sort of break it down into three key pillars. And the first pillar was gaining clarity. And it was
mm.
literally brand identity is essentially built into that, but I just don't use
Yeah,
that terminology. I
right.
don't come from a marketing background, so that's not sort of the terminology that I would use. It would just be like, who are you targeting? What exactly is the pain point and the problem that they're
Mm,
having?
mm,
How are you going to be able to relate to that? And I now have also adopted a philosophy of having my channel or my clients' channels have, sort of not pillars, but definitely core values so that they
mm.
understand what's the point of their channel. Because a lot of people just have a channel just to say that they have a channel.
Yeah.
Sort of what is it that you're hoping your audience member is going to learn by subscribing to your channel and seeing the content that's on your
Mm,
channel? And so I definitely think that as a digital marketer, it's certainly brand identity certainly correlates and
mm,
overlaps in a lot of ways with video marketing because I think the two, because and I don't know if you agree with this or not, when it comes to a YouTube channel, I tend to tell people that when you're creating your channel, think of your channel like your website. And I
mm.
say that because it is sort of an extension of the website. It's just
Yeah.
gonna be the place that houses all of your videos.
Mm,
So if you have branding, if you've taken the time to invest in having somebody create logos for you and, you
mm,
know, a brand header for your website, why aren't you putting in that same effort into your YouTube channel? Because so many times I would come across people's channels and there would be no art whatsoever. It would be whatever that template, like nothing thing that's usually there. And if I'm lucky, sometimes they have a profile image. And then maybe if they have some kind of channel art and a profile image, there'll be nothing that's below the fold. And I'm like,
Mm.
what do you think people are going to do when they come to this channel? They're going to say, oh, this channel's non-existent. Let me go
Yeah,
someplace else. And
totally.
so I believe, I'm not saying that it is literally exactly like your website, but I want people to think of it in the same way, in the same effort that you put into creating a really good website that can speak for you when you're not there. That's what you need to do for your channel. And I don't know, as a digital marketer, I don't know what your philosophy is on that, but that's something that I believe in wholeheartedly.
Yeah, no, 100%, definitely. A brand needs to be consistent and cohesive across all elements everywhere you appear, whether it's physical documents or signs or your YouTube channel or your website. That's a huge part of branding. And that's something that you're right. I come across that as well. They might have a really cool brand separate on their website or something
Mhm.
like go maybe to their Instagram and it might have a really old logo or maybe some art that they did or maybe just a photo and it just doesn't look like the same brand. And
Yeah.
I think a big part of brand awareness is gaining that familiar sort of
Mhm.
feeling when
Yeah.
you spot each different channel and different outlet and collateral. It has to, oh, it
Oops.
has to, that was
Yeah.
close. It has to all match because
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's that's key to branding
Yeah.
for sure. So I
Yeah.
think it's
I think sometimes people probably, and I know this was a issue I had when I first started. I was like, well, I'm not Coca-Cola. I'm not, American Express, so it doesn't matter. But it
yeah.
does. It actually does. And it goes even for video. It goes, not only does the channel art need to be an extension of your website, but your custom thumbnails need to have some sort of similarity in your branding as well, at least the colors
Mm,
and ideally fonts, but I don't go crazy on fonts because some people, like, I know for a period of time a lot of people like scripted fonts on their websites anyway.
right.
And that doesn't convey well on YouTube. It's very hard to see a script in or scripted font
Mhm.
in custom thumbnails. So I don't, stress that, oh, the fonts have to be exact. I kind
Yeah.
of, as long as it's visible, as long as you can see it, and then just try to be as consistent as possible with the types of font that you're going to use, whatever the name of the font is, kind of try to stick to that with
Mhm.
all of them. And then another part of having a brand identity, I think anyway, and that I utilize is just making sure that you do have these, like I mentioned before, the core values of what the mission is for your channel.
Mhm.
Because if people, I think this is a part of brand identity. If people come onto your channel because they saw a video, but that video is sort of opposite of whatever else is on your channel, then to me, your brand is not cohesive.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's really important that you have a clear vision of what is the purpose and the point of my channel
Mhm.
and the content that you're going to be able to find on it, because that is something that needs to be succinct and it needs to be explained in your welcome trailer or in your, some people have taglines, or in your about section of your YouTube channel. You need to be able to really convey to a viewer what they're going to experience and find when they come on to your channel. And I think that that's something that sometimes gets lost or is missed a lot of times because we're just, especially solopreneurs, we're doing everything ourselves.
Totally.
So it's really hard to sort of remember those are areas. I don't get down too hard on people with regards to having, sort of a core mission, but I do think that it's imperative that um, you kind of, if you're going to be like, for example, my channel is a channel where I like to work with people who are not 100% comfortable creating content. They're fairly new to the process of creating videos, but they could be
Mhm.
established and they're like experts at what they do. So they're really knowledgeable up here, but when it comes to conveying that in the form of a video and then using YouTube to market it, they're just not the greatest.
Yeah.
And if they are a solopreneur and sort of trying to do a lot of things themselves, I either want to be the person that can help them figure out how they can do it by themselves, or I can help them do it. So a lot of the content that is on my channel are easy and simple tools or software that you can use in order to create videos. And my mission is to be as authentic as I can in terms of what my capabilities are, in terms of, there are a lot of people that may go online and be intimidated by a lot of the people that they see because they seem so glossy. And I
Yeah.
know that that can be off-putting for a lot of people. So I want to be someone to say, look, I don't wear makeup. I'm not like, looking like I just came out of Wall Street.
Yeah.
I'm someone that is being authentic to who I am. I want to be comfortable. That is the key for me. And so,
Absolutely.
and so that I think is really important in terms of people just having those values. And the other values for me is education or information. I want to educate and inform my audience on how best they can utilize these tools or this process or platform or whatever it may be. And the other thing, and this isn't really necessarily a core value, but it's simplicity. I just want things to be simple and easy and user friendly to my audience. And so those are the things that I really stick with in order to have that theme going on in my channel. And I don't know if a lot of people are thinking that way sometimes.
Yeah, I do think. Oh, have I frozen? I'm
No.
not sure if on
Oh,
my
on
end.
your end, you froze?
I
You're
think I
moving
might.
on my end.
That's okay. If you can see me, then
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. With especially like going back to things like fonts. You were saying that it's sort of it's not 100% imperative that you match every single font in every platform, and that's absolutely true. It's actually impossible to, because some fonts are licensed, some you can only use for, once you vectorize it and make it for your logo, that sort of thing. So coming back to simplicity, it's so important when you're creating a brand to not lose sight of the values that you're building your brand on. And simplicity comes hand in hand with that. It's so common for people to think, well, for me to have a good brand, it has to be complicated. It has to have a lot of elements. It has to have all these flashy colors and pictures and fonts, and it ends up really not as effective as it could be. So absolutely, like simplicity is key. Some people view that as maybe less original, or maybe they feel that there's less combinations to add because it's more simple, but that's not at all. There are just infinite slight combinations and changes that you can do for a brand that pulls it all together in a really nice, simple way.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And then another thing for me that I think is a part of brand identity is being able to have a consistent, or not even a consistent, choosing a style of how you're going to present your content.
Mm.
And again, coming back to me, I'm casual but professional. And I say that because usually when people are casual, and I always say this to people when I'm talking to them about what my presentation style is, I'm not someone that has the greatest sense of humor, so I'm not going to be goofy and doing fun things on my videos. I pretty much stick to the point, but I'm just not like stiff. But
Yeah.
I'm relaxed and I'm casual, so that's sort of my style. And I believe in having that as a consistent style throughout all the videos that you do, as opposed to
Yeah.
having one that's more formal and, proper, as opposed
Mm.
to some other ones that you might do might be loose and goosey. And so I feel that your video style, your style of presenting, is a part of your brand identity, because again, people are going to be able to identify, okay, that's an Edie video because
Yeah.
she's, doing this, that, or the other. So that's another thing that I think is important.
Yeah, definitely. And that also brings back having cohesive elements across all of your branding. So that could be visual, so more things that I do, like logos and color palette and website design and all of these visual things and design experiences. But then there's also the way you present. So exactly what you're saying with creating YouTube videos, it's going back to that speaking to a certain target audience. So
Mm-hmm.
and staying true to yourself as well, I think, or true to your brand, your brand values. Because if you if you were a really humorous brand, then that obviously draws people that are
Mm-hmm.
into that kind of thing, and they go, oh well, I'm going to watch this video just to have a great laugh. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're posting things that are really serious, and
Yeah.
they get set off guard, and they think, oh well, this isn't what I came here for. And
Right.
then you might, you know, get unsubscribed, or just people go, oh, I don't know this brand anymore. They want everything to be familiar. People, humans, want everything to
Mm-hmm.
have and to be familiar. So absolutely. And just every element, whether it's verbal or a way of presentation, visual, just everything, it does need to be cohesive. So
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
you're exactly right.
And then when it comes to a content strategy, what's your overall thoughts on that? And what are the points that you would recommend to someone with regards to putting together a content strategy?
Yeah, so once you have that really almost psychological breakdown of your brand and your target audience, so your branding's nailed, that's when I would move on to content strategy. So
Mm.
there's a few pillars of different kinds of content that you can create. And I think it's important to do a bit of a mix of them. Obviously, you've got brand awareness. So some of that can just be sort of, hey, I'm here, this is what we do. And maybe like it could be a product shot or just kind of an explanation of who you are. There's engagement. So that could be some sort of prompt for the audience to do something or respond or engage in some way. And
Mm.
that really helps with building audiences as well, which is kind of, I would say, they're all equally as important, but I would say that one is almost the most important because you're wanting to grow a community and sort of a back and forth
Mhm.
conversation with your viewer.
Right.
And then we've got a few others that sort of like promotional. You could offer a promotion every few weeks or something. It doesn't just have to be like sales or something. It could be some sort of seasonal event or basically news. So there's quite a variety of this content type. And I think that at the end of the day, whatever you're creating, whether it's videos or Instagram posts or blogs, even,
Mhm.
I think it's important to sort of shuffle those and create a clear plan of, okay, I'm trying to engage people today, and I always think it's important to touch in with your audience like once a day, preferably.
Mm.
Um, 5 times a week is quite common as well if people just want to sort of work on the sort of weekly sort of a thing. But just as long as you're shuffling that, because I see some people doing only promotions, and
Um,
then that just looks very adsy. And
yeah.
it's just sort of in your face, like quick buy,
Right.
20% off, and it's just that's all you post. And then people are like, well, I don't know why. I don't know who this brand is. I don't know who you are. I don't know why I should. So that obviously doesn't fail. That obviously fails. And then there's also some, you want a good mix of them, because even engagement, as important as it is, if there's just engagement but not a lot of informative posts, then, or content to consume, then people kind of go, this person's really funny, or this brand's really interesting, or
Mhm.
I want to engage with them, but I don't really know what they do or what they're selling, then
Mm.
that's
Right.
not as effective again. So
Right.
it's really good to have those sort of, what I do in my social media marketing packages that I create for clients. I will actually start with, okay, how many times a week are we going to post or create content, and what are those going to be broken down to? So maybe like twice a week engagement, and then
Mhm.
once a week awareness, once informative, and maybe a sale every couple of weeks, or like not so much a sale, sort of like just a news announcement
Right.
every few weeks. So as long as it's got that core intention and that variety in types of posts, and you actually know why you're posting, I think
Mhm.
if you're being consistent in those intentions, then you can get so much success from content creation and content marketing.
Do you think there's a difference in marketing for a product versus a service?
There can be. I think that the core values are pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of thing might change in the details. So for example, if you were a service and you're a solopreneur and you're selling your personal coaching,
Mm-hmm.
um, then you kind of would want to engage in a certain way that says like, well, this is who I am, like this is what
Right.
it's like to work with me, and it's a bit more of a personal experience. And then when you have products, that is, you've still got the engagement, informative posts, awareness, all
Mm-hmm.
those core sort of skeleton ideas, but you definitely, just in the way that you do it, you would shuffle it around a bit. So it would be more like awareness, less about the brand owner and more about, okay, well, this product, this skincare product is good for your skin because da 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 da.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, for me, with content strategy, it's really about, obviously it piggybacks on the brand identity, because once they have that understanding, then it's a matter of, okay, what kind of content are we going to create? And I love anything that's educational, informational, because that more often than not is what people are actually searching for.
Yeah.
Because I help my clients with YouTube videos, that's obviously a search engine. So therefore, that's the kind of content that I tend to lean towards. It's, to me, the easiest. The second, well, actually, the actual easiest is answering frequently asked questions. So if nobody ever knows what the heck kind of video to create, come up with a list of FAQs and do a video on each. That'll
Yeah.
that'll get you going.
Yeah, that's the value content you
Yeah,
want for sure,
yeah,
creating value for the audience. It's
yeah.
that's a
Um,
great idea.
yeah. And then from there, you can come up with a number of different types of videos that, again, your ideal audience is looking for. Because I look at YouTube can be sort of your blog post. Think of it like your blog post. That's your hero content that you're creating. And then from there, what can you break it off into? And then that you can then send off to various social media platforms. And
Yeah,
for me, I am a proponent of using video, um, either from YouTube, whether it's the actual video from YouTube or if it's a clip from YouTube, and then also custom videos, using those on social media. Because obviously every single platform now incorporates video on it, and they
yeah,
incorporate it because they know that it works. There's going to be debate from a variety of different people telling you, well, it's not that engaging, or not a lot of people watch my videos, or what have you. But these platforms wouldn't have invested in being able to integrate video with them if they didn't understand the impact that it does. Not every single video is going to hit. Not every single video is going to resonate and that people are going to want to watch it. I do recommend that you do shorter videos on social media, because people are scrolling and they're not going to a lot of time to look at a specific video, but that you should try different types of videos to see which ones resonate with your audience. Because at the end of the day, it all goes back to, who's your audience? What is it that they want? What do they want to learn from you? What are the needs? And so once you have a clear picture on that, you can sprinkle that throughout. And the other thing that you can do, even for me as a video person, not every single post of mine is a video. So you don't have to do only videos on
yeah,
social media. You can do different types of written posts or image posts, or I haven't done an audio outside of sharing like an audio podcast. And
yeah.
I know that LinkedIn for sure. I'm not on YouTube, so I can't speak for it, but I know LinkedIn has audio events
Mhm.
in addition to like a live event that we're doing now. So I'm sure that they can share clips of that on LinkedIn as well. But I just like to have a sampling of different types of content. Like, I'll do content. Usually my image posts are more so that you can learn about me. So I have a series of posts that I've done where I'm revealing 5 things about me that, outside of you being my best friend or related to me, you don't, nobody would know. And so I did that because I realized for a long time that I wasn't really sharing as much as I probably could, so that people could just, get to understand and get to know me a little bit more. Like a lot of people I saw on, I don't remember how long ago this was, but on one of my videos on YouTube, there was like a debate going back and forth between two viewers on why I didn't have hair. And one thought I had cancer, the other one's like, just thinking I did it as a power move. And I was like, "Oh, okay. So I guess I need to, like share information so that people, can understand." And anybody that's watching, I do not have cancer. I have scarring alopecia, and I just decided to get rid of all of it. I still have hair. I just decided to not let it grow out anymore. And I fought myself on it for a really long time, but I finally embraced it. And once I did, I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? But yeah, so stories like that, or about where I grew up, the fact that I grew up in the Virgin Islands and not here in the States, that's like night and day, so
Yeah.
just sharing bits about myself is, I think, something that is helpful and is something that I do not a lot, but I would say maybe once a week, there might be a post that goes out that's like personal in that respect, where
Mm.
it's, sharing. Other than that, talking about my thoughts or opinions on things. And then I'm always, helpful in sharing information about what I do, and, things that people may not be really crystal clear on. And then obviously you'll do I guess my version of promotion right now is doing like testimonials or things like that. I don't readily like, I have this sale going on, buy this. I don't do that because it's just, for me, it's off putting. And I have not
Yeah.
figured out a way to subtly and like smoothly talk about my services without it seeming like I'm coming in your face. I
Mm.
probably do set like every day that I did, I think it was almost every day that I did the live stream last week, I had a ticker going with promoting my digital course. And then at
Oh,
the end, I said, if you want to learn more, just, so that's probably like the most out there that I'll get with promoting. But that's
yeah.
probably the only type of post that I'm always like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it is tricky to stay really genuine and still have promotion posts. And I
Yeah.
think that that scene in the world is changing a lot as well because people are looking for more connection and organic sort of emotional content. So just a sale, like those cold sells, they almost never work in my experience. So even for products, it's not.
Right.
Um, and it's not, I mean, that's so common as well. I work with so many small businesses and individuals, and everyone hates creating that because it just cheapens it. It feels like it cheapens it.
Yeah, it
People aren't really
does.
going to respond to it as well as, a genuine sort of, um, well, this is what I do, this is how I can help, and leaving it at that. And then people can,
Right.
click your links or
Yeah.
as you say, I mean, that's quite a good example to sort of
Yeah.
just have it there and then just
Yeah.
mention it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, people certainly have built up simultaneously as people are becoming more organic and genuine. I have noticed the sales funnels that are quite pushy that have been really popular in recent years as well. And those are just, you get 800 emails and pushing all the, quick in the next hour, get 80% off,
Yeah. Yeah.
really full on. And
Yeah.
while I'm sure they do work in a lot of times, I think it doesn't really, depending on the brand, it doesn't really build that really personal, organic connection,
Mhm.
and it's more likely to just annoy people. So, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, at least for me and my
Yeah.
experience as well as a
I, I
consumer, I just shut off to that
Yeah,
sort of thing.
I'm the same way, and I agree 100%. What would you say is, and what would your recommendation be with regards? Because I think this goes along with content strategy, is the platforms that you use. Obviously, as a digital marketer, everyone should have a website, correct?
Yeah, yeah, almost always. In
Okay.
fact, I like to say always, but I've come across a couple of situations where I don't know, they really want to just keep it to social media and have like one little web page, but I guess that still counts as a
Right.
website. But
Yeah.
generally, pretty much always, because you can harness SEO and have
Right.
all of your email lists and everything in one place, and then you
Right.
own it, rather than like Instagram or Meta actually technically owning your audience.
Yeah.
As
Exactly.
helpful as that is, you do want to direct people from those platforms into your own, so that
Mhm.
should anything wild happen to
Right.
any of these platforms,
Exactly.
you do
Exactly.
have that backup and you don't
Yeah.
lose your business because of it.
Yeah. And then what would your advice be with regards to, okay, I have my website. There are so many social media platforms out there. What do I do? How do I pick the right one?
Okay, so normally I would sit down, because this is a very custom, almost a personal preference, because some people might really only want to create videos and potentially longer videos. Then I'd say, oh well, YouTube, like that's great.
Right.
And then in certain industries, maybe LinkedIn might be more relevant. As a very blanket statement of a lot of the brands that I work with, I do like to start with Instagram, because it's
Oh,
easy and
mhm.
it's quite not Facebook. Facebook for me, in my opinion, is out. It gets expensive. It doesn't really show a large enough audience. But
Mm.
Instagram, it's a very changing landscape. So maybe in 12 months I'll change my mind entirely, because
Right.
it used to be a lot more accessible for just the public to see all your content with hashtags, and now it's a little bit more complicated with the algorithm. But I still say that, because you can create reels and then share it onto other platforms,
Okay.
and create that regular content. So we can sort of um, jot out with my clients. I'll jot out like maybe a month's worth, and then we'll schedule it. Most of it, as you said before, like video is so important. It's becoming quite a focus on every single platform.
Mhm.
So even if people are just posting like a slideshow of some of their photos that they've taken with some words over the top and some music or something, that's still fine. That's great. But videos are just absolutely important. Still images barely ever get a load of feedback. It's not
Mm.
really something that people will kind of scroll by photos. If they're a carousel post, then that can be really good, because then it prompts you to sort of scroll through, and
Okay.
especially if
Yeah.
they've got sort of a border that implies there's more to be
Right.
seen,
Right.
and then you can swipe through. Those are really clever, and those still work really well. But yeah, in general, I always say Instagram is still really relevant, especially with hashtags. And if you're genuinely engaging with your audience in comments or DMs, that's still relevant. TikTok is definitely one that many are apprehensive to start on, for a whole raft of reasons, but it is really effective. So if anyone's sort of curious to start on TikTok, I think it's a good place to be. Just simply because you get so many views. I mean, you could post anything and really get immediately like 800 views.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's quite a large audience. But I think when you actually optimize, again with SEO is a little bit still relevant in
Mhm.
TikTok. If you optimize everything, then you will start to get a targeted audience, and you'll get a lot more of that all at once, which can be helpful. Um, but yeah, just
So number
just
one is Instagram, and number two would be TikTok.
probably at this point. But again, it depends on the industry that people are in. So sometimes LinkedIn, if it's a B2B business,
Right.
then it's absolutely like
Right. Yeah.
important to be on LinkedIn.
And then what about Threads?
Threads, yeah, that's one that I have kind of not gotten into yet. I've been in the circle, so I've looked into it quite a bit, and I've
Mhm.
dipped my toes in, but I haven't fully like created a package around it for my clients
Mhm.
yet or anything like that. So I can't really speak too much on it, but I do know that it's quite a growing platform for gaining awareness, at least.
Was Twitter ever something that you utilized for your clients?
Not really. I think it's really good for people building personal brands,
Oh,
but I
okay.
guess I've mostly, especially in the sort of like heyday of Twitter, I think it at that point I was focusing on working with bigger businesses, so it
Mhm.
wasn't really as relevant. Although I know quite a few accounts like Wendy's have really harnessed it and created like a personality around their brand, and
Right.
they've got a lot of success from that. So
Mhm.
um, I'm all for it. I just don't personally use it so
Gotcha.
much for my clients.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I personally only use obviously YouTube, and LinkedIn is
Mm.
my probably second platform.
Mm.
And then besides that, I use Alignable, which isn't really a social media marketing platform. It's more of a
Mm.
social networking platform, and it's only available in the US.
I was gonna say I haven't heard of it
Yeah.
even. That makes
Um,
sense why.
they've been around for a while. They've been around. I think I was introduced to them easily 2016.
Wow,
I
okay.
didn't realize I had no idea. Somebody invited me and I joined it.
Yeah.
Never, it was sort of, I treated it like LinkedIn. Okay, I'll figure you out one day.
Yeah.
And then obviously because of COVID, a lot of people started, coming onto LinkedIn, which is when I probably started a little bit before COVID, trying to get a little bit more serious with LinkedIn. And then that's when I
Mm.
sort of rediscovered Alignable, and then came to find out that it was only available in it might be, I don't even think it's in Canada. It might be just in either
Wow.
North America only or just the US.
Right.
I'm not sure why that is, but they do try to focus on building communities within like areas of where you live. So I can be
Right.
connected to everybody that is unalignable that lives in the neighborhood or the borough that I live in. I'm connected to, or something
Cool.
like that. So that's kind of how they do it, and it might be a little difficult to do that on a worldwide basis. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I'm on there, and I am sort of back and forth sometimes with Facebook. And I think my main reason for that is I've not gotten, like, I have a lot of friends on Facebook.
Mm.
So that's who I sort of stay connected with. And that's kind of
Yeah.
why I'm still on there. And to be truthfully honest with you, Instagram, I tried, and it seemed like I was kind of getting an understanding. And then I couldn't seem to really wrap my brain around it. So I wasn't really sure of who used it and whether or
Mm.
not my personal ideal client used it. So that's why I kind of removed myself. And I think and I get why they're doing this, but part of the annoying part of it too was that you couldn't put any links in the post. It had to be
Oh yeah.
your profile. And I'm like,
Yeah, that that is
it was
annoying.
like an extra step, and
Yeah.
it's like, do I really want to go through this? And so
Mm.
that's why I think I have not. But I am curious about Threads, not because I've
Mm.
ever used. I was never a fan of Twitter. I had an account, never really used it.
Yeah.
So I get that Threads is sort of the answer to Twitter, um,
Mm.
but I am curious about it a little bit. But I don't know whether it's something that I need to invest my time in.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I need to look into further as well. And yeah, I'm pretty much in the same position with that as you, for sure. And it is interesting that you mentioned that about Instagram and not being sure of whether it aligns with your target audience, because it does have quite a it's not as young as it used to be. Absolutely. It's
Mm,
there's quite a few older people. So I would say the age range these days is actually a bit more between about 25 and 45.
okay.
So not so much like, I know when it started it was a real like teenager sort of a thing, as with TikTok, I suppose.
Right,
Although TikTok is becoming slightly more mature as well.
right.
But Instagram I've found to be quite helpful because a lot of solopreneurs hang out on there.
Mm,
So for the particular services with startup businesses and creating initial branding suites and websites and all of that I do, I've found it really helpful to go on there and keep in touch with people and sort of reach out with small brands that um, I sort of, yeah, it can be quite useful because quite a few people who don't have a website yet hang out on there because that's sort of a way to get their
ah,
content out. So as someone who creates websites, I'm always like, oh, so like
gotcha.
trying to get connections and like get to the bottom of why they're using that over a website and sort of trying to help ease them into possibly going across platform. So
Right.
it is a real good starting point for people, Instagram.
Yeah, I had a friend that it wasn't that she didn't have a website. She hadn't updated her website in
Mm,
a number of whatever time frame it was. And her rationale, which totally made sense when she finally did update it, was that she was still sort of tweaking and working out what it was that she was going to be offering to her audience. And
right.
so it didn't make any sense for her to invest in updating and revamping her website
Mm,
when she really wanted to make sure that this new program or course or whatever it was that she was offering was really going to be something that made sense for her to invest in. So once she had done it for, I think it was a span of like 3 years, that
mm,
she had needed to update her website and just sort of opted to put it on hold. And then, by then she knew exactly what she wanted to focus it on and how she wanted it to look, and was
yeah.
able to do a really nice version of her website. So when I heard her sort of articulate that, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But I've come across people who have literally never had a website, and maybe, and I say website in multi-paged website,
Mm,
but maybe they may have had just a one pager, not the scrolling. I don't know what the
yeah.
difference is, but just literally
Yeah.
one page that
Sort
may
of a
have
sales.
their like bio on it and a
Oh,
photograph,
yeah.
and then that's like it.
Yeah.
And so I've never understood the rationale with that, because I was like, what are people really gonna do when they get here? So it just didn't.
Yeah.
I had, from the moment I started my business, I had at least a 5-page website, because that's how I was taught by the coach that I had.
Yeah.
I had to have a proper website. Now, the mistake I made was not having the ability to build an email list immediately. So that
Uh,
was a huge mistake.
yeah.
I could not for the life of me figure out what kind of lead magnet I wanted to offer. And
Mm,
so because I just was so baffled, I just didn't do anything. So I didn't have that. And I would say a long time, I would say the first 3, possibly 4 years of my business, I didn't build an email list.
wow.
And
Yeah.
like,
No.
yeah.
Yeah. That's super interesting to hear as well about the person that was on LinkedIn, sorry, Instagram, and they were sort of using it as market research. That's something I
Mhm.
come across as well quite a bit. We have a few small businesses here in New Zealand in particular. I'm not sure if it's more common here or whether it's just everywhere, but I've seen quite a few people doing businesses at markets, like local sort of fairs and markets, and they just have an Instagram page, and that's for the same reason as what you mentioned, to sort of explore the avenue and sort of
Mhm.
see what the target audience is. Because that's something I didn't mention before as well with the target audience. Sometimes when you start out, you can start out with a target audience kind of, but
Right.
it's not really the audience that you want and need. An example of this is when people, let's say there was someone making cupcakes, and they wanted to make that into like a nationwide business, and they had sort of an idea around that. But when they were just starting out, it was just small, so they just took it to their local club or their church
Mhm.
or something like that. Then their target audience would become people at those specific clubs or people at their local church, and
Right.
then they'll get sort of stuck in that, and
Right.
it can be really easy and quite confusing as a brand owner to sort of think, what am I going to do with this now? So is it these young mums with babies and little kids at church? Is that my target audience? And then it
Right.
can get quite
Mm.
confusing because you've got that small pool of people and you're not quite sure where it is. So I always say there's your current audience, and then there's your target ideal audience. And
Gotcha.
that's getting a little bit in depth, but it's pretty important because I have seen people getting lost in their brand for a couple of years simply because they're like, well, mostly young mums buy my
Right.
cupcakes, but I
Right.
want them to be like for corporate,
Right.
like
Right.
something completely different.
What advice would you give to someone who is experiencing that now, where they are attracting people that may not necessarily be their ideal audience? What advice would you offer to them?
I would definitely say to create a little bit of a plan and think, well, really nail down who that audience is, the current audience,
Mhm.
and why they're actually buying the products, and then get extremely clear about the kinds of people you're wanting to focus on. And if there's no connection to those two, then it's quite important to redirect that and shape that as early on as possible in your branding and your marketing strategy to really focus on those other people. So
Mhm.
if it was going to be corporate, then absolutely like go on LinkedIn, create connections there. Probably post less like mummy baby posts on Instagram, because that just confuses the corporate people.
Right.
So just get really clear on what you're trying to do and stick to your guns with that a little bit, because it can be easy to be like, oh no, I'm abandoning my original
Right.
fan base, my audience. But it's for the best in the long run. It can be a bit like ripping off a band-aid, but it's for the best to really focus on why you're doing it and why you're truly doing it as well, because it can get exhausting trying to work with an audience that you can't personally connect to, or feeling like you're just not sitting in the brand space that you wanted to. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What tips would you then offer to somebody who's like, okay, I get that, I understand it, but I don't really know who my target audience is because I don't know who I resonate with.
Mm.
So what would you tell that person to do in order to find that out?
Um, I think it could be a combination of market research and really like drilling down what problem you're solving. So if you think about um, what problems you're solving with that service or product, then you can start thinking about, well, what kind of person would have those problems?
Mhm.
And you could ask around, and it sort of needs to be, this is probably quite a custom thing to do, to sort of spin around and think about like who your target audience is if you're really like not sure. But it is important to get unbiased advice on that as well, because
Mhm.
people sitting in that space, I've seen that too, where people will ask, say, their uncle or like their family members or their small group of people, and they'll say, "No, I think it looks fine. Like, no, I'd buy it. That's cool." And then again, you're stuck in that echo chamber. So I would definitely say, be open, be explorative, look in different avenues, possibly create some polls once you kind of have a bit of an idea of what kind of problems you're solving. Maybe create some polls on some Facebook groups, or um, potentially reach out to people on LinkedIn. Just explore,
Yeah.
talk to people in outside of your immediate circle.
Yeah, I agree. Because I know when I started, I pretty much have kept the same target audience. It's been tweaked somewhat because I primarily target service-based entrepreneurs. I love
Mm-hmm.
working with entrepreneurs that provide a service to someone else, and they need to have visibility so that they can get that organic reach in order for people to learn what they do. And because those are more than likely people that would need to create content that's informational or that's educational in some capacity, and that's what I love to do. So that's who my target audience tends to be. I've expanded it a little bit because when I first started, it was like just coaches or speakers were who I was targeting at first. And now I still include them, but now it's more like if you're a web designer, if you're a
Yeah.
financial accountant or whatever. So those are the types of people that I will target. And then within that category, they're not necessarily the most tech savvy, and they are new to the concept of creating videos, and they're not like, oh, I know everything I need to do and I know what camera to use and I know how to do this, that, and the other. And they
Yeah.
just need to have someone that can walk them through the process, or at least show them, and then they can do it themselves. Or if they want it done for them, they can have that done as well. So I've, over the years, sort of more, I'm trying to narrow down as much
Yeah.
as possible so that it's very targeted, and so that's what I've opted to do. But I know that a lot of people have a really difficult time sometimes really narrowing down who their target audience is, because they
Yeah.
just like you said, people are buying their services
Mm.
and they're like, okay, so this is my target audience. But when they really dissect it, they recognize, well, not exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Definitely, definitely. It can be quite a journey as well, because I've personally been through that, where I started out with a graphic design background. I was sort of focusing on graphic and web design. Over the years, I really had trouble nailing down my niche. I was sort of thinking, okay, well, graphic design can be used for all
Right.
businesses. So I
Right.
was targeting way too big, and then I was
Yeah.
ending up with clients, especially early on, clients that I really didn't resonate with, and I was sort of just doing stuff because I could, and it was
Mhm.
successful, but I was a little miserable in it.
Right.
And then as I went on, getting into social media and more the marketing route, and then especially going from coding websites to actually working with Shopify and going into the e-commerce space.
Mm.
These days, I really focus on product-based businesses, because I love creating exciting packaging and really intention-filled products that
Mhm.
solve problems and solve purposes. So working with that has been quite interesting, because we can all, as professionals, we can all say, well, I could do that, but it's so important to come back and go, yeah, but what do I love doing? What do I want
Mhm.
to spend my time doing? And that really shows when people talk to you, and they think, well, do I want to work with this person? If
Right.
I'm going to be sitting there and say, oh, look at this amazing packaging that we could do these colors and like all these things, I'm sure people can probably see how excited I am,
Yeah.
and they'll hopefully want to work with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that I think is a telling sign. So
Yeah.
that's what people need to recognize in order for them to sort of zero in. I see that we had some people on. I didn't see anything in the chat, so I don't know if that's because on YouTube or some other platform is where I think they might be on YouTube. And so if you do have any questions and we weren't able to get to them, I apologize. Oh, there we are. Great rising. Great. Thank you very much. You're welcome, Misty. Um, yeah, so I loved this conversation. This was really intriguing, and I definitely want to do a variation of this again. So I hope, Jess, that you will come back again so that we can do it. I'm not going to be doing a daily challenge all the time. I think tomorrow is my last day because I promised I wanted to go until the end of the month, but I probably will do it hopefully every week moving forward after that. So I would love for you to come back and talk
Yeah.
about a different aspect of marketing, and hopefully we'll get some more people in. I haven't figured out what is a good time to do these live streams. I know it's, what time in the morning is it for you now?
It's almost 11 a.m.
Right. Yeah. And it's it's going on 6 p.m. here.
I'm
So
trying to rejig my sort of schedule to be a little bit earlier for my American audience. So hopefully
yeah,
that helps as well. I don't mind getting up a little earlier, but I
yeah.
would certainly
And
love to do
I'm
more of that.
thinking late in the afternoon might be okay too. So I'll play around with the different times because that's another sort of wonky thing of just trying to figure out what's the best time to do a
Yeah,
live stream. And I've done them at different, all during last week, I did them at different times. So I'm not really sure. This one actually, I think probably had more. Well, actually, no, there was another one I did that had a lot of engagement, and I don't remember what time that was. But we will work something out. If we do it again, it's certainly going to be, it can still be at 5 my time, 10 your time. So that's not
great.
a problem. But thank you so very much, Jess. Let me see if I can put your information again in the chat. I did. I will definitely share and subscribe. Thank you very much, Misty.
Oh,
Appreciate
thank you.
that.
Awesome.
Um, I'm going to put your contact information again in the chat that you can reach Jess. And then obviously, if you're watching me on YouTube, you know how to get hold of me. And, but thank you so much. I truly do appreciate this. This was a really good, informative, and interesting talk with you. And I can't wait to do it again in the near future.
Yeah, me too. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime. All right, then.
Awesome. See you next time.
Yep. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.